Hello and welcome to WTM Digital Insights. I'm Kyle Steffish, an SEO strategist at WTM, and I'm joined today by Corinne McCarthy, a fellow SEO strategist, and Emily Long, our SEO team lead. In this episode, we're going to share some of the most effective content marketing trends and strategies for e-commerce businesses in 2021, including strategies like video, podcasts, live streams, and blogs. To start us off, I'm actually going to turn it over to Emily to talk a little bit about video on demand and some of the strategies that are really important in 2021.
Awesome. I think it'd be probably a good idea to just quickly define video on demand versus live stream video. Video on demand is content that is pre-recorded and then uploaded to online platforms for users to view on demand at their own pace. This is different from live stream content, which is viewed in real time as the video is being recorded. Popular video on demand platforms include YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, and many other social media outlets as well. We're seeing an increasing number of search queries produce video carousels on page one of organic search results. You've probably seen this many times, both on your mobile searches and your desktop searches, just in day-to-day searching behavior. We're also seeing Google produce video segments as featured snippets for an increasing number of searches. So that's a video segment actually shown at the very top of search results rather than a text-based featured snippet. So very valuable real estate there for video content to occupy. It's worth noting that while it is possible to publish video content on platforms such as Facebook, Vimeo, and even your own website and get that video to rank in Google's carousel or its featured snippet position, it is very unlikely. Google heavily favors YouTube content for those organic positions. A tip that I would offer businesses that are considering getting into video content as part of their overall organic strategy for 2021 would be to take learnings from their written content strategy and recycle that for video success. What I mean by that is that videos are often showing up in search results for the type of informational and education-seeking search queries that blog articles compete for currently. For example, how to do something, how to choose the right tool, or how to choose or find the right provider for your specific needs. So if you already have blog articles on your website that perform well for relevant educational search queries related to your business, you can repurpose that written content to create a video addressing the same subject. This allows your brand to compete for additional real estate in search results. You may, as that video gets indexed and starts ranking better for your target search query, you could ultimately end up having a listing for your website in search results that links to your written blog content on that particular subject, and then also have video real estate within the video carousel on page one. Webinars are a popular form of video on demand content that we're continuing to see in 2021, but we are increasingly seeing webinars include interactive live stream features such as live chat. To go more into detail about live streaming, I'm going to kick that back over to Kyle.
Thanks, Emily. Webinars and live streams, like you said, do share some common ground. While webinars themselves aren't new, they are incorporating more and more of the features that we would traditionally associate with live streams and other live content. But in a lot of ways, mostly in the execution and the intent behind the content, live streaming is very different from a webinar. For businesses, live streaming is a great opportunity to grow brand awareness with new demographics, to have real-time engagement with customers, and probably the biggest benefit, to build a sense of community and trust with customers. And this last point is really important considering the impact the pandemic had on United States e-commerce, global e-commerce for that matter, and retail foot traffic in 2020. For example, in the United States, e-commerce grew by 44% in 2020, and that's according to research conducted by Digital Commerce 360. As you might expect, the most recent data from Statista shows that in, I believe it was Q4 2020, retail foot traffic was still down around 38% year over year. So there has been an inverse relationship between e-commerce sales and retail foot traffic. So connecting with your customers digitally is vital to staying relevant in 2021. And streaming is one of the best ways that you can accomplish that. And streaming platforms like Twitch, YouTube, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, and more recently Amazon Live, which I'll come back to in just a minute, all make it easier to engage with your customers online. And in fact, a study from livestream.com found that 80% of consumers reported they prefer brands use live video content to share information about products and to communicate with customers than through traditional written content like blogs. Now, that is by no means to take away from written content. There's still tremendous value in blogs, and we'll talk about why that is and what some successful blog strategies look like a little bit later in the video. But nonetheless, live streams are a powerful communication and marketing tool. And there are a lot of ways that businesses can utilize live streaming, like live interviews or Q&As. There's also product launches and product demos and product-specific Q&As that are available that a lot of brands utilize. There's also live educational content, again, like webinars. And there's even edutainment type of content, which is kind of an informal way of giving your customers, giving your consumers a look into your brand and brand culture. Different behind the scenes streams and things of that nature are great examples of this type of live stream content. The nice thing about live streaming is that any brand can use it. Any brand can live stream. All major social media platforms support it. It's even been adopted by Amazon, like we said, and this latter adoption is very exciting. So far, Amazon Live has kind of been positioned as a competing or at least very similar platform to QVC and Home Shopping Network. So if you sell your products and you have a store on Amazon, Amazon Live is a great new option to explore. Most of the content so far is, again, very reminiscent of what we see with home shopping platforms like QVC. That is with one or more hosts just explaining a product, going through the product features, even using a product, demonstrating a product. One of our clients who occupies the summer camp supply market industry has been regularly hosting Amazon live streams and has actually seen a growth in sales as a result. Other brands are using Amazon Live in some pretty creative ways. Some cool examples include cosmetic brands doing makeup tutorials, which feature their products, to exercise equipment companies with home workouts, live streamed home workouts that showcase and highlight their exercise equipment. So there's a lot of ways that brands can use live streams, and especially brands that are 100% e-commerce, like those that are on Amazon specifically. A final note about live streaming and kind of an additional benefit is that the content can actually be recycled as video on demand, often both on the platform that it was originally streamed and off of that platform as well. So this means it can continue to gain an audience, it can continue to gain a viewership for your brand after its live premiere. And in that regard, it also shares a lot of the same benefits as traditional video on demand content. So we've really highlighted the value so far of video content. But one of the downsides to video is that it has a high level of production. So whether it's a scripted educational video for YouTube or an Amazon live stream, video is going to require a lot of preparation. It's going to require lighting, equipment, and setup, audio and video equipment. It's going to require software. It's also going to require the knowledge of how to use that software and the time to use that software to edit the video in post-production if it is video on demand. So while video is highly engaging, it's also very resource heavy. And this might make it inaccessible to brands and businesses who are trying to incorporate it into their content marketing plan. But if you still want to reach a new audience and you want to grow your content marketing strategy, there are other exciting mediums that are still showing a lot of growth potential in 2021. A great example of that is podcasts. Podcasts offer a good middle ground between traditional written content and video content, both in terms of production inputs and customer engagement. So, despite being around for more than a decade, podcasts are still a growing platform. 55% of the US population has reported listening to a podcast as of 2020. Also in 2020, 24% of US adults, or 68 million individuals, reported listening to a podcast on a weekly basis. And that's up from 22% in 2019. In 2018, Google launched Google Podcasts. Spotify also moved into the podcast market. And then in 2020, Amazon Music started offering podcasts to their listeners as well. So all of this has helped spur a wider listenership to podcasts in the last few years. And again, we continue to see that growth in 2021. The nice thing about podcasts is that they offer many of the same benefits as video content. They're another entry point for new customers. They help build brand awareness and a sense of brand community. They can help position your brand as an authoritative presence in your market. This is especially helpful for niche or technical products and services. However, podcasts also have some added benefits over video. The biggest benefit is probably simplicity. What I mean by that is there's just lower barriers to entry. If you have a microphone, you can do a podcast. There's also plenty of free audio editing software available and a lot of very affordable hosting platforms that make it easy to share your podcast across all available podcast directories, like formerly iTunes, but now Apple Podcast, as well as Google Podcast, again, Amazon Music, Spotify, and again, all other major directories. There's also an added benefit of mobility. And what I mean by that is you can listen to a podcast just about anywhere. You can listen to it during your morning commute. You can listen to it at the gym. You can listen to it in the office. It's really easy to take a podcast with you and to consume it in a lot of different times and a lot of different places that you really couldn't, read a blog post or watch a video. So that added mobility really kind of increases its value too. So how can brands actually go about having a podcast? I'm going to keep it kind of simple and kind of silo the type of content that's common to podcasts in two different silos. One being informational, the other being entertainment. And there are obviously, it's a spectrum and we see middle grounds of both. But again, for simplicity, going to keep it siloed into those two categories. One of our clients, for example, is in the mental health and substance abuse treatment industry, and they actually have started a podcast in which their medical director discusses mental health topics with psychologists, therapists, and clinicians. So that's more in the informational side, and it's very much kind of a journalistic, interview-based format, which is very popular for podcasts. On the opposite side of the spectrum, you have examples like The Message by GE or General Electric, which was a science fiction podcast that was styled after radio plays and radio dramas. So entirely fictional, but included references to GE's line of products. Some other examples include Why We Eat What We Eat by Blue Apron, which is an educational podcast that explores food and diet trends. There's Open for Business by eBay, which interviews entrepreneurs who started successful businesses. Similar to GE's podcast, there's Hypnopolis by BMW, which is again another radio drama style podcast set in a future sci-fi setting. There's On Life and Land by John Deere, which is educational and covers topics very close to their customers' interests like sustainability, land management, farming practices, things like that. So there's a lot of ways for businesses to go about creating podcast content that is relevant to their customers. As a final note about podcasts, an added benefit is that they can be leveraged on multiple platforms. So traditionally, we think of podcasts on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, but you can also take that audio and upload it to YouTube with just a static image background. This is pretty popular with most major podcasts. You can also record it with video equipment and upload the video with the audio as well to YouTube. So again, it can be leveraged across multiple platforms to really kind of expand the audience that it's reaching. Of course, video and podcasts aren't the only type of content marketing businesses can use to engage their customers. Traditional digital content like blogs are still very viable. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Corinne to explain the importance of written content for e-commerce sites and to give a few examples of some successful blog strategies that we've seen and we've used with our own clients.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, a common misconception that I hear is that blogging is dead, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Blogs remain a great opportunity for e-commerce brands to attract users at the top and middle of the purchasing funnel, and then ideally nurture them down to the bottom of that funnel and get them to make a purchase. So blogs are a really good opportunity to attract new users to your site. And by that, I mean people who aren't familiar with your brand yet, people who might not be searching your products, people who might not even be ready to buy yet, but they're considering a purchase. I love that blogs can go more in depth with questions users might have prior to a purchase, whereas your product pages are usually, very focused, very targeted for keywords with high purchase intent. But that's not very helpful for someone who's really at the beginning stages of making a purchase, and that they're trying to compare their options, trying to research different features. So blogs can fill in that gap where your product pages can't provide that in-depth analysis. And it's also interesting to note that Google has started showing blog content for keywords that we've traditionally considered high purchase intent keywords. So as an example, we've been monitoring the search results for butcher block countertops and have noticed that there are some e-commerce, there are a lot of e-commerce results, but there are also some blog content, some blog results mixed in there. The same situation for church chairs. Historically that keyword has always been associated with product and category pages, and now we're seeing some blog content mixed into the search results on the first page. So it's just interesting that Google has started interpreting those keywords as partly informational as well. And of course, the question on everyone's mind is probably, are blogs really worth it? Do they actually lead to conversions? You're an e-commerce brand. What you really care about is revenue. And I will tell you that blogs do convert, and we've seen for our own clients, blogs converting. So I'll just give the example of our home goods client. Since they launched their blog 3 years ago, they've had over $74,000 in revenue just from users who are entering the website through blog content. So these users, they're finding these individual blog posts that our client has on their website, and they're entering through that blog. Maybe they had an informational query that blog ranked for, and then they eventually end up making a purchase. It's one of the great benefits of blogs is that they can actually lead to conversions, but they might not be the right fit for every brand. Some companies just lack the resources and bandwidth to produce blogs consistently. It does take a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort dedicated to posting on a consistent schedule. Some brands just don't have the resources or the staff to do that. There are other industries that are more niche and highly specialized, and it can be difficult to think of blog topics that will actually earn keyword rankings and traffic if it's a highly specialized topic. So in that case, resource pages could be a good alternative to blogs. These are long form pages around 1,000 words minimum that explore a topic in depth. And they can take different forms, such as buyer's guides, product guides, how-tos, installation tutorials, and FAQ pages. So as an example from one of our own clients, we have a mental health care provider client who started producing in-depth resource guides about different mental health and substance use disorders. So just in the past year, these resource pages have earned over 43,000 organic entrances, and also driven 61 conversions on the website. So, it's clear that resource pages can also, attract qualified leads and lead to conversions similar to blogs. And this type of long form content is better suited to businesses that have a longer purchasing funnel, or, are in a more specialized or maybe a B2B industry. So if you don't have the resources for a blog, consider potentially doing resource pages instead. And with that, I will turn this over to Emily to see if she has any thoughts that she wants to share on resource pages.
Sure. Yeah, Corinne, I think you covered a lot of ground there. I just want to quickly touch on the value of long form content within the B2C space online. If you operate a retail or manufacturing business within a highly competitive B2C vertical, long form content like buying guides and similar resources can be an effective way of setting yourself apart from competitors and earning web traffic from target users at the top of your purchasing funnel. So brands that are in verticals like the outdoor retail space and retailers or manufacturers that serve the DIY community should seriously consider making in-depth resource content a part of their overall organic strategy to earn more relevant traffic to their website. REI and Evo are two great examples of outdoor retailers that are creating valuable in-depth buying guides and comparison tools and sizing charts to earn more organic traffic from information-seeking queries that are popularly searched by target audience members. So some examples of that are queries like how to fit a hiking backpack, best skis for beginners, water resistant versus waterproof jackets. So creating really informative, highly valuable content that goes in depth, addressing topics like that, or education seeking queries like that, can be a great way to earn organic rankings for those types of questions, and then capture that click from a user at the top of your purchasing funnel and literally use the content itself to help them work their way down the purchasing funnel through that evaluation period of the funnel down to the bottom of where they're making that purchasing decision. So you're helping guiding them along with this content, with a buying guide, as I mentioned, or a comparison tool. We've seen a lot of websites have great success with that. And an added benefit, in addition to earning better rankings and traffic with the content itself, is that you're building a rapport and establishing credibility with that new user for your brand. So if you're helping them make a good purchasing decision that they're happy with, they're going to then, have a higher trust for your brand moving forward.
Great. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Corinne. For our viewers, if you have any questions, please leave those down in the comments. We're always happy to talk about digital marketing. If you'd like to reach out to us to inquire about our digital marketing services, you'll find our contact information down in the video description below. If you haven't already, please check out our other digital insight videos. Those are in a playlist on our channel. And please consider subscribing for more content. And as always, thanks for watching.